It's upon us, the new year, and whether you're here because you're being peer pressured into annual planning or you're here just because you're really excited to dive into the new year, welcome, you are in the right place. I'm really excited to share my Notion annual planning template with you today in this video. Hey, my name is Dea, freelancer, digital business manager, and most recently entrepreneur. And as always, you can find sections on the play bar below if you want to skip to a certain part of the video. Your time is precious, so take what you need. And if you want to watch this on 2x, you can do that in the bottom right corner so I don't talk as long as I could be talking. So let's dive into the video. Now, there are 3 quick things that I wanted to include as principles for this annual planning template that I don't see oftentimes included in other people's annual planning templates. So the first thing is, as much as possible, I'm always somebody who encourages you to create boundaries for yourselves, because I find that a lot of times we're very, very ambitious in January of the year. We're like, here are all the incredible things I'm going to do. Here are a million new habits that I'm going to take on. I've seen somebody's like goals list where it's like 20 goals per area of their life. And I don't know about you, but for me, in my experience, that's not very realistic. It's kind of like doing future me a disservice, because when she looks at that list, she's like, what did you do to us? I can't possibly get this done. I end up feeling very overwhelmed, and then nothing does get done because there is no focus of what should actually be getting done. What are the priority goals that I need to be working on? And so as much as possible, I encourage you, as you're going through this process, as we're going through this template as well, is to create those boundaries for yourself. And I'm also going to force you to create a few boundaries and kind of rein yourself in. So that's the first thing that's really important as a principle. The second thing is prioritization. So I find that a lot of times before I begin planning, the planning concept is very, very stressful for me because it's too overwhelming, because there are so many things we could be doing with our lives. Not just, so many things in our business we could be doing, so many different side projects we could be doing, so many things in our like health and relationships we could be doing. The options are kind of endless. And so to plan from a place where you feel overwhelmed by all the options is extremely stressful. And so in this planning template, I actually built in my prioritization matrix, where essentially we're going to score all the things you could be doing using math, using a few criteria that, you should determine for yourself. I'll kind of walk you through what mine are and why they are the way they are, but obviously you can change it. And based on that, it outputs a score and it ranks all the things you could be doing based on priority. So like what's most important to be doing, second, third, fourth, related to those goals that we are creating for ourselves. So that really helps me get clarity on priority. And then from there, it's much easier for me to start putting things into a plan, knowing that I'm working on what I should be working on, and not kind of like, there are 50 things I could be doing and I don't know what I should be planning for. Because an often mistake and trap that I fall into is when I don't have priorities, I try to fit everything into my annual plan. And sometimes that's just unrealistic. Sometimes you can't get 50 things done in a year or in a quarter. So that's why priorities are so, so important. Now, the third thing is, oftentimes when I annual plan, after I go through the annual planning process, I'm like, okay, well, that was fun. I like close out the tab and I'm like, anyway, and I kind of just never look at it again. And I don't want that to happen to you. So actually what's going to happen after we go through this step-by-step process is it's going to output a dashboard based on what you inputted. And you can just bookmark that dashboard to your Notion, and you can always check it out to get a good glance, a good overview at your quarterly goals and your habits and all that good stuff. So I'm really excited. You can tell my eyes are like twinkling because this is my crazy eye kind of thing. I got into such a flow creating this template and I'm really excited to share it. So let's dive into Mini Dea, where she will walk you step by step through this template. All right, let's go. All right, so welcome to this Notion template. There should be a duplicate button on the top right-hand side corner when you open up this template. So make sure you press that so that you get your own editable version in your Notion account. You won't be able to edit my version because it's the master copy. So up here, you can just input whatever year it is, and you can really just use this on an annual basis. You can even use it at the start of a quarter if you'd like, because really I only plan a quarter in advance. I don't really plan my entire year because I don't know where I'm going to be in 1 year or if I'm going to be a completely different human being. I am hoping this template is going to be as simple and as step-by-step as possible for you. So we're going to walk through this step-by-step. You can jump to any section here. This is kind of a table of contents for easy access. But if we scroll down, you'll see that step 1 is creating your big picture, essentially the vision for your year, for your quarter, for the big direction you want to go in. I always like to start on the big picture, like the big picture level, the overview level, because I find that a lot of times if you don't have the clear big picture, it's really hard to know if all your pieces fit together, if all the small things you're doing, the day-to-day habits, the day-to-day projects, tasks, if they're all lining up to get you to this vision. So I think it's really important to, as a foundation, have clarity on that big picture, where you ultimately want to go. Now, I know this can be a bit of an intimidating concept. If you're not sure yet, you're like, I don't really know what my big vision is. If that's the case, don't worry about it. You can always come back as you are finessing your year, as you're working through your year, you can update this. But really, it does not have to be anything specific. It can just be a general focus. It can be a phrase, a word, a sentence, whatever you want it to be. Just add it to the big vision. You can always update it and edit it. This is not a do it once and never change it kind of thing. You don't have to commit to it. So don't worry too much about this if you are overwhelmed by this. But if you already have a big vision for yourself, then you can add it right here in my big vision. Just type that in. So for example, for me, this is not specific at all, and I'm going to feel majorly judged about this big vision. But it's, for example, help others create lifestyle freedom. You get to hear me type. Without sacrificing. I really like doing like without XYZ in my big vision, to be like, what am I not willing to sacrifice for this big vision? Because sometimes I'm like, if you just have a big vision, it's kind of like, oh, this big vision goes at all costs, and I don't want that. So without, maybe instead of without, it's like while maintaining my personal sense of peace and happiness. Maybe like happiness and fun. And I know this is cheesy, please don't judge this. I'm coming up with this on the spot. I did not prepare my big vision to share. So help others create lifestyle freedom while maintaining my personal sense of peace, happiness, fun. So that's kind of what all of my goals and focuses do line up on, like in my business and all of that good stuff. All of it is to help people find lifestyle freedom, whether that is to work freelance as a digital business manager or just a freelancer or start their own business. So that's my big vision. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's my most important, actually, principle. It does not have to be perfect. You can just write where you are currently. It does not need to be something for the rest of your life. So that's why I also wrote, what do you feel is your purpose for right now? And it can be to learn, it can be to grow, it can be to venture into a new project, a new business, start freelancing. So whatever your big purpose or direction is, we'll include that in the step 1. Now, step 2 is to create your non-negotiables. This is so important. This is part of the principle that I was talking about earlier, where we're creating boundaries for ourselves. This is really important for me because sometimes I create goals and then I'm just like full steam ahead. I'm like, goals, like I can't, like the goals are the only path, and I kind of put blinders on, and that's really not good. You want to have non-negotiables in place to protect yourself. So non-negotiables are essentially the whole things you hold sacred above all else. They are your boundaries. They protect you. They are kind of like the limit of what you will not exceed and how you will not push yourself over your limit. So that kind of protects you throughout the year. So how will you take care of yourself? What are your non-negotiables? So here are some examples. Work no more than 6 hours a day, take weekends completely off, never take work calls beyond 6 p.m. So for example, some of mine include never open laptop for work purposes on weekends, and work around 4 to 6 hours a day during weekdays. That's a new one I want to implement, which I'm really hoping works. Maybe always make time for my family and friends. This kind of stuff. What is most important to you in your grand scheme of life that you never ever want to lose sight of in the pursuit of your goals, your tasks, your projects, because we're all pretty ambitious and all that good stuff. So after you put in your non-negotiables, you can have as many as you'd like. You have to check this box to solemnly swear and promise to never compromise on these non-negotiables. Check. I'm committing to myself that I'm not going to compromise on these non-negotiables. So now let's dive into creating our big goals and focuses. So now that we kind of have the foundation, we want to create these goals and focuses. Now I call them focuses personally. I think the more commonly used term is goals. I call them focuses. Focus is essentially an area or project in your life that you would actively like to develop or work on, kind of an area of improvement. I call them focuses. This is just a personal preference because I find goals to be relatively stressful as a concept. I'm like, once there's a goal, if I don't achieve it, I'm a failure kind of thing. But if I call them a focus, then I know that, a focus is I'm going to put all my energy towards it. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to focus on this, and whatever happens is kind of out of my control and I have to release that. So that's why I call them focuses, but you can call them goals. You can call them really whatever you would like. Now, there are only 2 rules to creating your big goals. There can only be a maximum of 3 in-progress goals at a time per area of your life. That means, for example, if business is an area of your life, you can only have 3 in-progress goals at a time. Do not have more in-progress goals. It's not, in my opinion, realistic. This helps us really focus down. You should not start a new goal until you have finished one of your previous 3. And the second rule is there can be no more than 5 total in-progress goals across all areas of your life. And if you're thinking, Dea, how can I only have 5 focuses across all my life? Because if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. We are forcing ourselves to prioritize our 5 biggest for the coming quarter, 2 quarters, 3 to 6 months kind of thing. So that's why it's really, really important. This is part of, again, my principle about boundaries. We want to make sure we are reining ourselves back and not just kind of like being like, it's a free for all. We're going to write 50 things we have to magically accomplish and find time for it. That's not realistic, right? So maximum 3 in-progress goals at a time per area. So that means 3 business, you could have 3 health, you could have 3 relationships, but no more than 5 total across all areas. So this is where you're going to begin inputting some of your things. Here are just some examples of mine, but you will have an empty template, obviously. So these are some of my business goals. I do have a health and happiness one below, and you'll notice that I also have Chelsea, who is my marketing assistant, on here. So don't worry, you're not like, Dad, you already have 5 things in progress. No, some of these are for Chelsea. This is just how I plan for everybody in the business. So as an example, my first big goal, and these big focuses or goals do not have to be super specific. They can just be big focuses in general of things you want to work on. Obviously, the more specific you can get it, the better, because when we have specific goals, we know what it means to finish them. If you have a big, vague goal, it's really, really hard to know when you have accomplished it or achieved it, because it's kind of like an open-ended thing, which is why I also always put in a KPI. So we'll get to that in a second. So the focus is what you want to focus on in the coming quarter. So for example, for me, it's to grow DBM Bootcamp, which is my business, via funnel, products, launches, and ads. So really just to grow the business overall. So the status of that is in progress. I'm always working on it. Area is business, so I just inputted business. So here's a single select, so you can pick, no, actually it's a multi-select because it could be different. It could be multiple areas of your life. You can just pick whatever it's relevant for. And of course, you can always add new areas if you have areas of life that aren't included on here. So KPI is a key performance indicator, aka how will you measure whether this is successful or not? And this is really important because me saying growing DBM Bootcamp is not very specific. How will I know when that goal is done? And for me, I'm thinking that goal probably will never be done as long as I'm running this business, because I have to continuously not even grow, but maintain and just make sure that everything is flowing. But for this example, key performance indicator for growing DBM Bootcamp is the amount of students joining DBM Bootcamp, right? That's how I can concretely, quantitatively measure whether DBM Bootcamp is growing or not. So I would set a goal related to XYZ students in DBM Bootcamp if I wanted to make a more specific goal. So that's of course up to you how specific you want to get. Now we'll just ignore these 2 for now. Once we scroll down, you'll kind of see what this is. But basically, once we create projects for ourselves, once we create habits, we can attribute it to the goal or the focus that we are focusing on. So input every single thing in here. Just make sure that at a time, like I said, the 2 rules, there are no more than 3 per area in progress. So you can also sort it by status. You can actually also filter if you'd like by status so that you only see the things in progress. I find that helps me a lot, is if I put in 50 big goals but only really 3 are in progress, that you just create a filter like status equals in progress, then it will hide everything that's not started, which can again help simplify a little bit and not make everything so overwhelming. So again, 3 per area, per person, no more than 5 total. I just find that once we have more than 5, it starts to get a little bit more difficult to keep track of everything and to actually prioritize accordingly. So try to keep yourself back from doing too many things at the same time. Cool. So that is creating your goals and focuses. So take some time, input some of the ideas that you have. Again, these are big ideas, big goals, not so much the tasks or the to-dos within those goals. So if we scroll on to step 4, now it's time to prioritize our big projects. So these were goals, right? General things that we want to accomplish, but projects are starting to get more actionable. So what are projects on our to-do list, tasks that are on our to-do list, tasks that are loose across all of the things, like all of the little post-it notes that we have and notes file documents and in our brain, loose in our brain, that's the worst one. So really a project is a one-time task. These can be big, medium, or small in size. These are not recurring habits. There is going to be a section for habits. So if you do something on a weekly, daily, monthly basis, save that for the habits section. This is one-time big projects. For example, creating a new product, doing a launch, setting up a vegetable garden, creating a website, that kind of stuff is what we're going to put in this section. So how to use this section? First, brain dump everything in your mind that you're like, ooh, I could be doing that, I could be doing that, and I still have to do this, and I want to do this year. Brain dump all of that into this section, pull together all the loose notes you have, to-do lists you have everywhere, input all of that. I want to consolidate all of those ideas into this one place so that you're not worried about, oh, there's also this place that I have information in that place. None of that. We want to put it all in this one location. And then, this is kind of what I was talking about, we're going to begin to prioritize. So I inputted a bunch of different projects that I'm considering doing. And then what we'll want to do is fill out this section right here. So I already started doing some of it. So the time estimate is how long in hours you think this is going to take. This is just going to help us once we plan, because it's going to calculate out how much realistically we are planning to do. Like if you have a project that's going to take 100 hours, we want to make sure that we aren't doing a million other things that take 100 hours in that same month. So time estimate, you can just estimate. It doesn't need to be super accurate. If you're in doubt, just buffer in a little bit. I find that most people tend to underestimate how long something will take. So just add in a little bit of extra padding just in case, but this will help us in the next session plan our time essentially. And then this right here are the 4 factors that I use to prioritize whether I should be working on a project or a task. So I'm just going to walk you through that. The first column is impact. Impact is how much is doing this project or task going to impact the focuses, the goals that I currently have in progress. And you'll see that there's a column here, related focus. So you can go ahead and link it to the focus that it's contributing to. So this project is make updates to my sales page. So that is going to contribute to growing DBM Bootcamp because it's the sales page for DBM Bootcamp. So it will link that to the focus. And then you'll want to look at the impact to this focus. So how much impact will making updates to the sales page do for growing DBM Bootcamp? I think it's going to have a lot of impact, so I put in 5. So all of these are 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, except effort. I'll talk about that in a second. Effort's kind of the weird sheep, but everything is 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest impact, 5 being the highest. The next one is confidence. Confidence is how confident are you about how you estimated the impact. I like to do this because sometimes when I haven't done a project or task before, I'm not 100% sure whether it's going to work out exactly as I want to. So I just want to buffer in a little bit of a confidence metric to be if I'm super sure, I want to keep that into account versus something I've never done before and I'm not really sure if it's going to work out. So how confident are you in the impact estimation that you gave yourself? Effort is the one that's graded inversely. So basically 1 means it's going to be the hardest, it's going to take super long, it's huge effort. 5 means it's going to be super easy peasy, it's not going to take very long, it's not mentally very draining for you, that kind of stuff. This is just because of how the formula works. Again, you can kind of update these factors based on what's most important for you. This is just kind of where I am at in life, and the scoring system I want to use. There are different ways to calculate this as well, depending on how much emphasis you want to give to each variable. So if you're like, I want to take into account excitement way more than everything else, then you'll have to figure out a formula that allows you to do that. This is just mine. It averages it out and it gives me the priority. So again, effort is the opposite way around. 1 means it's going to be the hardest thing ever. 5 means super easy. And excitement is 1 to 5. 5 means you're super excited to do it. 1 means you're not excited to do it. I like to factor this in because I want to do things that are fun for me. So this just allows me to work on things that I really enjoy, and I really, really hate it. It's not going to get as done faster as some of the other things. This is my scoring system. So please adjust the scoring system to your priorities and what you want to judge projects and tasks on. You can use mine as a basis and then kind of adjust it as you go forward, but this is an automatically calculated priority. And this table is sorted so that the priority always gets shifted to the top. So the top things are always the things that I then should be working on first, essentially. So that's how that works. So yeah, if I just attach everything, you should ideally have every single project here attached to some sort of focus, right? Because if you have a project that you're doing that's not contributing to any of your goals or focuses, then it might be time to reevaluate why you are adding that to your projects and task list. So creating a strategy and system for ads is definitely for growing DBM Bootcamp. So that's how that looks like, and you'll just grade it and it will sort it automatically. So you can see based on this sorting, it thinks I should make updates to sales page, which after you sort it, use kind of like your logical common sense and be like, does this make sense? And as I was going through this, I was like, yeah, this all makes sense for me because I know I should be doing this. This is a very easy thing. It's only going to take me an hour. It's probably going to have a lot of impact on the sales and everything, and I'm just not doing it. So this will also tell you math-wise, you should just be doing this task first before you move on to anything else. So it will just score everything. If you find that you have too many tasks that are about the same grade, you can also expand this to be 1 to 10 instead. That will then give you more options to grade things slightly different. Like you could have a 3 instead of a 4, and then things will be more scattered and won't have the same grade. So that's an option there as well. Now, obviously, when you're grading as much as possible, you want to make sure you're being fair and you're grading it in one go, where you're not like judging your excitement on different levels or anything. You want to kind of keep it relative to each other. Like, oh, am I more excited to do this than this? Okay. And then adjust your numbers. And then once you have that, you have your priorities. And you'll see that as we add the related focus, this is actually going to relate it back to this database. It will input all of the projects and tasks we are doing to get to these goals. And this is a really great way then to see like, oh, cool, I'm doing lots of things to grow DBM Bootcamp. I'm not doing anything. I mean, obviously these are for Chelsea, but I'm not doing anything for these two, so maybe I should think about adding some projects and tasks to get me to these goals as well. You can see I'm not doing anything for health and wellness, but I have some habits for that I'll add in a second that will contribute to that. So this is just a good way to get an overview of what you're doing to get to these big focuses and big goals. So once we have all of our prioritizing done, right? All the prioritizing is done. We've put in all the numbers. Make sure you put in all the time estimates as well. We'll move to step 5, which is beginning to plan your year. So this is going to start making things actionable, putting due dates on them, and really split it into the months and the quarters of the year. So how to use this section is we're going to scroll up and look at this section right here and check what is at the top of this list in terms of priority. And then we're just going to very easily drag that into the month that we want to work it on. You can always adjust the plan according to your availability, obviously. So let's just go ahead and do that. So this is most important for me, even though I don't super want to do it. I should be doing it. It's the priority. So I'm going to drag that, for example, into January. And now I know in January, this is something I have to do. The next thing is create a strategy and system for ads. So I might, wait 1 second. I'm just going to add a time estimate for that. I think it'll probably take 5 hours. I'm just going to add some time estimates here. All right, so I just added some time estimates so I can show you how the time estimates work, but create a strategy system for ads. It's saying it's a priority. I'll probably put it into January. Awesome. So here, we're going to set it to time estimates in hours, and those time estimates that we inputted earlier are going to be summed up at the top. So you can see right now, based on what I inputted, it's saying in January I have about 6 hours of work planned. So depending on how much you want to work, you can kind of adjust that accordingly. If I want to say I want to work 30 hours a week, then that would be 120 hours a month. So just make sure that all of my things, including the daily things, admin and all that stuff, does not exceed 120 hours essentially. So that is how you would do that. And then you can plan it across the year. You're like, okay, I want to run a paid workshop. Do I have time that month? Maybe I want to do it in February instead. Cool. All right. Increase price point. Maybe this is too much for that. This should be my one focus for that. Okay. It's going to take 10 hours. And then I'm going to increase price points there, create a plan system for TikTok. Maybe I'll do it like that. So this is how you can kind of map out your months. You can of course put multiple things in one thing, of course, if you want to get more things done. And as you're going through the year, you can continuously add your projects and tasks into this and just keep adding things, new ideas, new projects, keep scoring them, and it will always sort it by priority. And then based on that priority, you can drag it in to your plan, knowing that you're working on the most important things that you should be working on in your life and in your business. So that is how that planning part works. The one thing that I really like to do, and you can kind of decide if you want to do this or not, is I always click it open, and I love to put in what the first step of this project or task is, because sometimes I think I create tasks or projects that are really big and overwhelming. So for example, create a strategy and system for ads is a relatively big thing to do, and I might feel too overwhelmed to begin. So I'll just do myself a little favor and put in what is the literal smallest first step to getting this done. So I'll do something like create a Google Doc and put in the 3 types of ads you want to make. You know, whatever the first 15 minutes of this project will be. And then it will show up on the card here. And this will just help make it a little less overwhelming to begin this task. So that's just my personal preference. Other things you can put here is area. So what area of your life is it? So this is definitely business. Category. So these are the 3 categories within my business that I always want to be focusing on. So grow, nurture, sell. Grow is to grow the audience. Nurture is to nurture your relationship with your current audience. And then sell is to make sure that your business is actually making money. So how are you launching? What kind of profitable things are you doing? And then you can assign it, obviously. And then quarter, I normally just put it into the quarter that it is. So January is in Q1. And once you have that, you will have your first quarter planned out of what focuses you want to do, which is really, really exciting. Okay, so once we finish big project planning, we want to move down to creating our habits. So I wanted to separate habits out from these types of projects and tasks because there are a lot of things we do on a regular basis, daily, monthly, weekly, that we want to give ourselves credit for because our lives are not just filled with these types of projects, right? There are things that you do daily or weekly that you need to account for because they definitely take up a lot of your time as well. So I want to make sure we have a space to do that. What do you do on a regular basis? What do you want to start doing on a regular basis? And my biggest tip here is only try to integrate one habit at a time to make sure they fully stick before you move on to the next one. Adding 10 new habits at the start of the new year is setting yourself up for failure. So try not to do that because we want to make sure that we give ourselves enough of an adjustment period to each habit before we start to do too many new things. So here you can add whatever your current habits are. You can add the status of them. Are they things you want to start doing or are they already in progress? What area of your life are they? So this is not business. I don't know why it says business. Frequency. So how frequent do you do it? And the great thing here is you can then relate it to your big focus as well. So do Pilates 3 times a week is a health and wellness thing for myself. Check emails, all admin is just about growing DBM Bootcamp. Scripting and filming 2 YouTube videos a week is about helping people get started. And this will again go back to this right here to show you what you are doing and how you are working towards these big goals and focuses to ensure that you have things that you're doing that contribute to that. Yeah, and just as a side note, I'm really happy I put this on my list because I notice a lot of times I only set business goals, and I find that when I only set business goals, I don't prioritize health and wellness for myself. But when I put in health and wellness for myself, I'm like, I have to prioritize it. It's a focus, it's a goal, and now I can I can guilt-free, create these things for myself. Obviously, you should not feel guilty for taking care of yourself at all, but I feel like this just helps me do it in a more guilt-free manner. And so when I am creating habits like, don't work more than 4 to 6 hours a day, that is something I can attribute to my health and wellness. So for example, don't work more than 6 hours a day. So I'll just put that into business. I'll do that daily. This contributes to my health and wellness. So if you notice that you have some focuses, like for example, health and wellness, that doesn't have much stuff in it, then you have to it gives you kind of an excuse. Obviously, you shouldn't need an excuse to take care of yourself, but it gives you a chance to reevaluate if you are truly prioritizing your health and wellness, if you are not doing any projects or habits related to taking care of yourself. So that is what the final step is adding in those habits and everything. and essentially you have made it. So you've made it. You can now wear the I've done my annual planning badge proudly. So now we're going to move over and take a look at our annual overview dashboard, which is auto-generated by everything you just did above, because I find like I feel like you could bookmark this and look at this if you want, but I feel like there's a bunch of other stuff in there and I just want to simplify a little bit. And so the dashboard essentially simplifies everything you put in automatically. So you can see your big vision is teleported here. Your non-negotiables are here at the top. These are kind of the two biggest things that you kind of want to keep refreshing to yourself on a daily basis. And if you scroll down, I also included a habit tracker. This is the only thing you will have to move over, is just make sure that you label the habits at the top. I thought a habit tracker would be useful here. So you can just add the habits here. So your habits for reference are here. This is linked to the previous thing you just inputted. So habit 1 would be like check emails. This is a weird habit, but let's just say this is my first habit. And then this is filtered by all upcoming days starting today. So today's January 7th and all the upcoming days. And you can just tick that off if you do it. Habit 2, habit 3, and this just kind of gives you a good overview. But of course you can also go into views and you can go to all days sorted by months, and you will see by month every single day of the month. And what you can do then is you can add in calculate checked, and you can see over the month how many times you did this specific habit and how many times you might have missed it. Gave it a second, checked 1. So that's a cool way to kind of get an overview of how much of your habits you're doing, but upcoming will probably give you the best overview to really work through. And this is synced to the previous page, so you can always edit it here or edit it in the previous page and it will show up exactly there. And if you scroll down, you'll also see the big stuff. So this is the dashboard of where you did your project planning. So everything you want to do in the different months, so you can quickly see what you should be focused on for the month. There's also a quarterly overview that you can look at if you'd rather see things like categorized by quarter. If you scroll down, you will find your prioritizing table, and you can, again, like I said, always continuously add new things into this prioritizing table. It will automatically always prioritize by sort. Now it will. Did it? Yeah. It will always prioritize that by the highest priority, and you can just grab it from here and then you can just drag it into your plan continuously throughout the year. And finally at the bottom are your big goals and focuses for the year, just for reference. So this is the annual overview dashboard that you can then bookmark to your Notion, and you can just make sure on a weekly basis or at the beginning or end of the month that you are reviewing all of the key things that you want to be focused on for the year and that you plan for. And that is the template. So don't forget, you can go to the top right to hit duplicate to get your own version and walk through it step by step and work through this to plan your year. And yeah, I hope it's useful and I hope you like it. And if there are any areas of improvement, don't hesitate to let me know. I'd love to know them. And now let's dive back to big data. All right, so that was it. That was the template. Don't forget to find the link down below if you want to grab a copy of that template. If you have any cool goals that you want to share, please let me know in the comments. If you end up using the template, let me know as well. That would make my life. But yeah, I hope you are having a good start to January, whether that is a slow start or you're kicking it, swinging. That's not the saying, kicking down doors, kicking and swinging something. I'm not at that place right now, so that's not relatable for me right now. Right now I'm like going as slow as I possibly can. January really doesn't start for me until mid-January, to be honest. But either way, I hope you're having a good, fulfilling start to January. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, bye!